Victory comes from finding opportunities in problems. Sun Tzu. Welcome to EOS Weekly. There is an arms race underway to determine which of the smart contract blockchains will win out over the competition and become the de facto standard upon which all future applications will be built, and which of these will be forgotten to history. Over the course of the next few years, we will find out which of these networks will become the Coca-Cola Classic of blockchains, which will be the Pepsis, and which will be the RC Colas. There's something in particular about EOS that sets it apart from the other chains. A differentiating factor that is built into the core of EOS, which very well could determine where EOS falls in this spectrum. And that differentiating factor is its feeless transactions. EOS went with a radical new approach with its resource allocation model, which is what makes feeless transactions possible. And the truth is, while many of us believe in this new model, this is all still a grand experiment. EOS's feeless model could be the differentiating factor that causes it to rise above the competition and ultimately become the Coca-Cola Classic of the blockchain world. Or it could turn out to all be a grand mistake, that vital flaw which causes EOS to fall by the wayside. REX, the Resource Exchange, was first announced back on August 2nd, and it is now in its final stages of deployment. It will be available in a matter of weeks, if not days. And what REX does is it provides a mechanism for EOS token holders to lease their unused EOS tokens to the application builders out there who need those resources. On the surface, this is exciting from the standpoint of the everyday EOS token holder, because it enables them to earn passive income on their EOS holdings. But on the grander stage, REX is going to play a crucial role in the blockchain arms race. Feeless transactions, without a leasing mechanism in place, has certain downsides to the point where it could cause EOS to falter and fall behind. But feeless transactions with a well-implemented leasing mechanism, this combination is extremely powerful. REX could very well be the secret sauce, the differentiating factor that, together with the feeless resource model, is what ends up giving EOS an edge over the competition. In the remainder of this video, we are going to explore EOS's feeless transaction model and explain why leasing is going to play such a vital role in the blockchain arms race. But first, we have an exciting announcement to make. EOS Weekly is partnering with EOS New York. Now, we don't take these decisions lightly, and wouldn't have partnered with just any organization out there. But as we all know, EOS New York is not just any organization. As we've witnessed over the past year, since day one, EOS New York has shown a tremendous amount of leadership, always adding value to the EOS community. And their highly regarded reputation is reflected by the fact that EOS New York has been in a top 21 elected spot ever since the EOS launch back in June. EOS New York's thought leadership in this space was most recently exemplified by the passing of the EUA, the EOS User Agreement, an effort led by EOS New York, which has now replaced the interim constitution. Through this collaboration, EOS Weekly will maintain autonomy and creative control over the content of these videos, but we will have access to more resources, including blockchain engineers and other specialists, which will only enhance the quality of our videos moving forward. We are both very excited about this new partnership. If you have any questions about this, please reach out to us on Telegram. And one more announcement before we continue on to our main discussion. The POS Airdrop requires you to claim your tokens by April 25th. The link to this Medium post is in the show notes below, which describes what is required of token holders. There's also a link to the pEOS Telegram channel in case you have any questions about this. All right. That's it for the announcements. Now let's get back to our main discussion. So why is REX, a leasing mechanism which might initially sound like a nice-to-have type of feature, why is REX so vitally important to the long-term success of the EOS blockchain? To understand this, we need to back up and take a look at the fee-based resource models and compare them with the fee-less resource model. Because once you have a clear view of the differences and limitations of each model, the crucial role of leasing in all this becomes abundantly clear. Every blockchain has its own unique economic model, structured in such a way so as to attempt to make a given chain both affordable, while at the same time being self-sustaining. When structuring these little microeconomies of each blockchain, the same fundamental rules apply, which also apply to the day-to-day types of businesses that we're all familiar with. Labor and raw materials go in to a given entity or organization, and expenses are paid out. Finished products or services go out in exchange for fees or revenue that are paid in. We're going to use Ethereum as our poster child for the fee-based model of the blockchain world. Ethereum follows this same business model to the T. Miners provide the infrastructure and the hashing power, and they collect block rewards for their services. People consume the Ethereum blockchain by executing transactions on it, and they pay for the services via transaction fees, which in Ethereum are called gas fees. Current businesses, those that exist outside of the blockchain world and are working within the realm of fiat currencies, have no choice but to work within this same model of inputs and outputs. But here's the thing. As we begin working with entities that are for the first time no longer confined to the realm of fiat currencies, each entity becomes more autonomous, and it opens up some interesting new possibilities that really mankind has never known before. The EOS blockchain in particular is taking advantage of these new possibilities. Instead of following the same inputs and outputs model that we've been accustomed to for centuries due to limitations in our currency systems, EOS has broken free and gone with a revolutionary new model. What EOS did that was so different was it brought the consumers of the pie, who were typically thought of as being outside of it over here, and EOS brought them inside and made them the owners of the pie. Anyone who wants to utilize the blockchain buys an ownership stake in EOS, and the chain resources are divided up based on how much each person owns. Then, to handle the expenses side of things, instead of collecting fees, EOS takes advantage of the fact that tokenized systems can inflate their own token supply. Again, you can't do this in the world of fiat currencies, unless you're a central bank. But in the blockchain world, inflation on a per-system basis is a new tool that can be taken advantage of. So, in EOS, the token supply is inflated at a rate of 1% annually, and that 1% is used to pay our elected block producers to keep the network running. Inflation is a fair way to pay expenses because people feel inflation proportional to how much ownership stake they own in the system. There are pros and cons to each of our two models. So let's look at each of these, starting with Ethereum, and let's zoom in on their transaction fees. The good thing about transaction fees is it's a fair way to ensure that those who utilize the chain pay their fair share for it. The downside of the Ethereum model is the user experience. Every time an end user transacts on the Ethereum blockchain, they have to pay what's called a gas fee. And what we're seeing is that this gas fee has been a major obstacle for Ethereum in terms of onboarding the masses. One of the main benefits of the EOS resource model is that it doesn't have any of these transaction fees. It's feeless because of its ability to pay for things via inflation. This feeless model is great for the user experience, but unfortunately this model does have some downsides of its own. The main downside of the EOS model can be summed up this way. Nobody ever ends up using the exact amount of resources according to their ownership. People will try to buy the exact right amount of EOS so that it matches up with their expected usage, but nobody can get around the fact that there will always be fluctuations in usage. And due to these fluctuations, people's actual usage is never going to match up exactly with their projections. Think about your electric utility. Imagine it was structured like the EOS model, and you know about how many kilowatt hours you use per month. With the utility modeled similar to EOS, you could buy an ownership stake in your electric utility based on that projected monthly usage. The problem with the EOS model is that your projections are never going to be perfect, and in this model's raw, unedited form, as soon as you attempt to go over your staked amount, it's lights out. And imagine if those who don't use all their kilowatt hours, that electricity just got wasted. Now, the initial way that EOS was set up to handle the mismatch between purchased ownership levels and actual usage levels was by having what's called a relaxed state and a congested state, meaning the EOS blockchain would typically be in the relaxed state, where those going over their kilowatt hours would not have their lights go out. They could simply dip into the extra resources of all their fellow stakeholders, those who were not using their full capacity. But then when the chain is busy, it goes into what's called congested mode. This is where everyone's usage is throttled back to their true capacity based on their ownership stake. Congested mode does unfortunately cause lights to go out for those who are over capacity. But this alternating relaxed, congested state thing is not a good long-term solution. Because first of all, it opens up EOS for spam like what we saw with blocked Twitter. But more importantly, as the number of dApps on EOS grows over time, and with it, the number of real blockchain users grows in relation to investors who don't really use the chain, we are only going to spend more and more time in the congested state. And so, the long-term solution for the EOS resource model is not the relaxed congested modes, but instead, it is to implement a powerful leasing mechanism. With leasing, everybody still has a certain amount of stake in the EOS chain, which very well could be zero ownership. And anybody who is using more or less than their share of the pie can rent or they can lease the difference. Once we have a mature leasing solution in place, we will get it to the point where the user doesn't need to manually intervene to manage their resources. When the trend for a given EOS account is on track to go over their staked capacity, they'll automatically start renting resources. And on the flip side, those who are on track to underutilize will automatically kick into leasing mode. Now, without leasing, the fee-based resource allocation model that Ethereum uses is about the same. Some would argue it is better than the EOS model, without leasing, that is. But once you add leasing into the EOS model, all of a sudden something very special happens. Something that makes the EOS model dominant over the Ethereum model. Because essentially what leasing does, when combined with the EOS model, is it creates a sliding scale. Everyone can decide how much ownership they do or do not want in EOS. The more ownership, the fewer usage costs they'll incur. And those who overinvest in EOS will lease out their unused resources for a profit. This new model combines investment with utility in a way that was never before possible. Going back to the arms race, none of the other blockchains have this sliding scale in place. Or if we were to say these chains had any sliding scale at all, it would be as if they were broken, with the handle stuck all the way on the one end, where you always have to pay the full amount of fees regardless of your ownership stake. With Ethereum, for example, it doesn't matter how many Ethereum tokens you do or do not own. The fees are always the same. The token holder doesn't get any discount in their transaction fees just by owning tokens in the chain. Not so with EOS. With EOS, the more you own, the lower your regular usage costs become. Now, Chintai has been offering EOS token leasing since October, and we shouldn't overlook the value of the Chintai platform. There was a period of particularly high congestion during the last few months of 2018 where Chintai made a huge impact in terms of keeping the EOS network affordable for the dApps. But with Rex coming online, what does this mean for Chintai? These are essentially two competing options for EOS token leasing. Rex definitely has some benefits over Chintai. First off, with Rex, when you lease your EOS tokens never actually leave your account. With Chintai, your EOS tokens do leave your account and are placed under the control of a smart contract. Rex is also going to be able to draw on EOS fees collected from the RAM market and the EOS name auctions and distribute those fees out to those who are leasing their EOS via Rex. Chintai does not have access to the RAM fees nor the name fees, so this is another area where Rex has an edge over Chintai. But the Chintai team saw Rex coming. They've planned for it, and they've differentiated themselves in a very cool way. With Chintai 2.0 and the new checks token, Chintai is no longer going to be limited to supporting the EOS token only. They're expanding to support the leasing of any token out there. This has massive implications, because if you think about all of the tokenized applications out there, currently the vast majority of them have their tokenomics set up like Ethereum, with a fee-based approach. Up until now, they really haven't had any choice in the matter. This is not to be confused with which blockchain these applications are building on top of. What we're talking about is whether these apps have gone with the fee-based tokenomic structure or the fee-less tokenomic structure. Any app that wanted to structure their tokenomics in a way similar to EOS's feeless ownership model would have basically had to implement their own custom leasing mechanism. Because the app builders are smart, and they know that the feeless ownership-based model only works when it is accompanied by leasing. And building a custom leasing solution is too daunting of a task for the majority of apps out there, which is why they have all been stuck in this camp over here. So, what Chintai is doing with their expansion to support the leasing of all tokens is they're opening up the floodgates. With Chintai 2.0, any tokenized app out there can choose to update their tokenomics to the feeless model, the EOS model. And with Chintai 2.0, they'll have a pre-made, out-of-the-box leasing system ready to go. That barrier to entry of having to build their own custom leasing system is no longer a barrier to entry for them. Liquid Apps, with their DAPP token, is going to be the most prominent early adopter of this new Chintai 2.0 system, because Liquid Apps has already decided to go with the feeless ownership-based model, and so is going to need a top-notch leasing mechanism to go with it. Chintai recognizes the importance of this Liquid Apps opportunity. They wrote up an entire blog post about this particular use case, because they know that providing the sliding scale for the Liquid Apps DAPP token is going to be a powerful, highly visible demonstration for all the app builders out there to see. And if this is well executed and all the applications see firsthand how well this sliding scale resource model works, many of them are going to want that sliding scale for their own token. And potentially we will begin to see that onslaught of applications refactoring their tokenomics models so as to migrate over from the fee-based Ethereum model over to the fee-less EOS model. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed this presentation. And we'll see you next week, right here on EOS Weekly.